So, Curt, where are contractors leaving the most money on the table with their bids?
It's kind of a twofold question. It's funny because most people either don't answer their phones or get back to their customers quick enough in a day and age that expects it. And I think the second part is that people give what they're asked for when they should be giving what the customer actually needs. It is so common that a customer will say, "I'd like a price for X," and people just return X price to them, not even realizing that that person who asked for the project isn't even qualified to be able to ask
Hmm.
for what they actually need. So yeah, people miss the mark all the time on that. When I see on the daily people 4Xing what the original request would have been in terms of the actual curated solution.
Yeah, and there's so many contractors out there though that they're like, "Well, no, that's just a bait and switch or a gimmick." But I'm one of those contractors that have seen the opportunity that you guys have created at ResponsiBid. So why don't you just get the crayons out though and take us through like this psychology that you help contractors with when it comes to the scaled model of selling and bidding?
Yeah. I think it's important that you do make one of your options what they originally asked for because it's going to end up being what you sell against. The fact is, you're already going to sell against a bunch of people who are going to do that. My software is really geared towards people in the cleaning industry. So someone asked for them to pressure wash the driveway. Like it's obvious there's oil stains on the driveway, or maybe there's mold growing, or maybe the HOA called and said they want the mold taken off. And so they're like in this emergency mode where it's very clear what they want. And a lot of people are going to go and tell them, "I'll clean your driveway off for $200, right?" But if you show up with just, an $1,000 option, I'm not going to just do your driveway. I'm going to do your driveway, your walkway, your sidewalks, take care of your roof that's rotting off the roof at the same time. Like, if you do that, you probably won't sell because, like, there's nothing to anchor to other than the competition, and the competition's going to win. But if you come in and you say, "Hey, I'll take care of your driveway," what you asked for, it's a simple $250 job, but you have to understand we're a premium company, and it's really you're kind of having the luxury of having a company out here that's as equipped as we are to do the kind of work we do. And it would just make sense that as you're considering that $200 quote, let me tell you what you actually would probably benefit and our customers really rave about. See your roof up there? It's being eaten alive by bacteria. Those black streaks are not harmless. And then you explain, I can clean all those black streaks off, get your roof safe, add another 5 to 10 years of life into your roof. I can also clean your gutters out so that next time it rains, it doesn't overflow and damage all of this stuff over here. And then, of course, your driveway. But I mean, if I make your driveway look good, all the walkways up to your doorway and everything else is going to look bad. I know everybody else that quoted $200 probably to clean your driveway probably wouldn't do this, but as part of what we do, we would take care of all the walkways and the entryways, take care of the side yards, and just really make it so that the only thing that stands out is the beauty of your home, as opposed to what a lot of people do is throw a Band-Aid on there, and then that Band-Aid is like this sore, outstanding thumb that people are going to see, and it makes the rest of your house look bad, which I don't want to do to you. So I would say that it's that idea of walking in and saying, we could do the thing you asked for, and we could price it just like everyone else, but nobody else cared enough about you to do what I just did. And, once I show all that extra value, it's a lot easier to anchor against it. And if you anchor against something that's so expensive that people probably are going to like have their mind blown, then you need to have plan B. So plan C is to sell them what they asked for. Plan A is the massive, like everything that they could have. Throw a good value plan B in there. Once they're anchored not to the $200, but maybe to the $2,000, all of a sudden $1,000 becomes a lot more reasonable, and people will start looking at their bank account at that point going, if I didn't do the $2,000 options, do I at least have enough free cash available to do this $1,000 option? And it's not nearly as big a jump as people think it is to take a $200 question and turn it into a $1,000 answer.
Well, and have you seen, because I know with the cool systems you guys have at ResponsiBid, have you seen as a percentage how many customers select maybe the second option or the third option? Because obviously the correlating data is, well, you only had one option to begin with and you have a clean close ratio. I mean, that's all you get. But,
Mhm.
are you seeing a percentage of customers selecting that middle option over the third option? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so this is basically a way for you to engineer it to fit what your process is going to be. I talked to some people who are like, I just can't imagine selling anything less than the best. right?
Mm-hmm.
And those people need a conversation because they're so high up on their horse that they don't realize that you're just riding around on a regular old quarter horse. Like, let's talk.
Now, hold on, Kurt. Are these the same guys that are maybe technology averse too and think, well, I've got to have a handshake and I got to be the guy out there?
Yes.
Okay, maybe,
Oh my
are they
God.
the same type? Like, is that the same guy?
I can't believe you knew that. How did you know?
Well, now, hold on. Like, let's lean on that. Sorry, I know we're kind of dovetailing in
Yeah,
the topic here,
that's
but
cool.
are you seeing a resistance in adopting just this automated technology because it's like, well, the customer wants to know that I'm real and things like that, but really what they want is their damn problem fix, right? I mean, what are you
Yeah.
experiencing out there in the world?
It's amazing how much ego there is in our industry. People really believe that only I can sell it, or they only want to do business if they need me. And the fact is like, let me ask you how you buy your stuff. Like, so that's how I did it about 5 years ago. Is I got a lot more resistance back then. It still exists, but I would, someone might pull me aside and say, "Hey, I really think it's cool what you're doing out there. You're really pushing the envelope. But just so you know, that would never work in my market. Everybody needs a shake and handshake
Mm-hmm.
and kiss the baby and plus." People have to see this face and understand me. And like, I have this whole thing I do in person that really closes the sales. And I would look at those people and say, I super respect what you're doing because I think that there's a really good place like in your heart and what you're doing for people. And I don't doubt that there is a market of people that probably even think exactly what you're talking. But I just want to ask you a quick question. How do you buy your stuff? I think most people are like, well, I find the best value, or they won't admit it. Like they won't even admit it usually, but I go to Walmart and buy my thing, or I go to
Yeah.
Amazon, look at the reviews and buy the thing. And if it comes at a reasonable price and they get the shipping, like, so it's funny how people like feel like they have a special set of rules that when you're there and you see something close, it is kind of a magical moment. And when you are in front of your customer and they're experiencing you and they're eating it up, these things, your brain is logging them away. And anecdotally, it's like proving the point to over and over again, like this works, this works, this works. But the fact is it works because it's what you're filing. It's what they're experiencing. The fact is that if you sell the way people want to buy, then you will sell a lot more and at a lot higher price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to get more into the sales side because I've been training salespeople like crazy. We got 17 of them in my company right now. But even you told me something a few months ago. I was like, huh. And I used it like that day, and it was perfect. So I want to get into that here in a little bit. But
Okay.
Kurt, let's rewind a little bit because you came from industry, which I really love about you. Yeah, it wasn't like, yeah, I'm some tech guy in New York. You had a window cleaning company in Arizona, right?
Yeah, I
And
did.
take
Yeah.
me through that story because I want to hear that in the aha moment that was like, oh, I can't keep doing it this way. I'm going to create something. So take me through that journey.
Well, I was going to be a professional mountain biker. And then,
It's kind of
yeah.
funny because
Yeah.
before we started recording, I told you I was going to be a rock star musician at the ripe old age of 17. Funny how life works out, right, Kurt?
Well, you also said it was when you had the baby, right? When you had your first
Yeah.
baby? Yeah.
Hmm.
So for me, it was the same thing. My first baby came along. I was 21. Well, I guess I was 22 then. My wife had just turned 20 when our first baby came along. And I just realized almost immediately, like, this is not the life that a dad should have. And not the life I wanted to have as a dad. Maybe, it's not to say that there's no professional mountain bikers out there with, great family relationships, but it wasn't going to work for me. So I realized I wanted to do something where when the sun went down, I had to be home. So I started a window washing company. I graduated from ASU's business college. I actually got graduating student of my class. Like, so my wife
Nice.
is like, man, I won the lottery. This guy is so smart. Business college stamp of approval. And then I immediately got out and had no idea what to do. Like if I would have put an application in somewhere, like I'm sure it would have worked out nice. But the fact is like I knew I was unemployable. I've just always known that about myself. So I started my window cleaning company, figured out, what I should have learned in business college, what an LLC versus an S corp versus, whatever all these different things are. And I very quickly found myself in a house with a residential customer selling a window cleaning job. I got my training for window cleaning, very prestigious School of Hard Knocks. I called a
Uh-huh.
competitor 2 hours away and asked if I could work for him for free. I went and
Oh,
worked for him for free for a couple weeks. He taught me everything I needed to
yeah.
know in 3 weeks. I bought his trailer that he was getting ready to upgrade from. So I bought that and I had my company. But when I was in the first sales, like I never went to a sales job for him. He taught me how to clean windows. I thought that's all you need to know. If you're going to be a window cleaner, you got to learn how to clean windows. I don't know how to price it. I knew how to price it. I didn't know how to present a price. And so I grew up. This one I learned about myself is that I must have grown up thinking that salespeople were all manipulators, like bad guys.
Mm.
So I found myself having some major anxiety selling to a customer. Like I realized this job is coming like $500 to wash glass. And I'm like, who in their right mind would spend 500 hard-earned dollars, certificates of appreciation, right? How am I going to get 500 certificates of appreciation to make someone's glass clean that's just going to get dirty again? And so that identity crisis, it weighed on me. It worked out, but I would always give people discounts and devalue myself left and right. And I would give people a quote and run away as fast as I possibly could. I did all the things that you shouldn't do. No confidence. And that's when I was trying to get technology. Like it was just kind of coming out. This whole eBay thing was happening at the time and people were buying stuff online. And I realized that
don't age yourself like that, Kurt. This whole eBay thing's coming about. Like, let's move it up and say Spotify or Amazon online.
Yeah, there was this new technology out called AI, and it was long before that.
You misspelled it. You meant AOL.com, right?
Now you're talking.
Yeah, that's right.
But I realized I'm going to build this thing that will sell from our website, because what was happening is people would send in quote requests from our website, like at the form, and then I couldn't get back to them quick enough. A lot of times they would have already picked someone else. So what I did is I automated that thing on my website to automatically give them a price range. And I saw that, oh my gosh, people are buying stuff for way more money. I would have discounted it. Like it became very clear to me that like people pay this kind of money for this kind of service. So that's when I started sort of working in the tech and realizing that I'm going to build a software for my own deficiencies. And at the end of the day, like I couldn't run two businesses, so now I have just a software company. But in that lesson of building that technology and that automation is where I learned that not only was the world making a shift in how they purchase things, and I was in front of them quicker than anyone else could be, but I also learned the process that people follow to buy. If you're part of the conversation, you'll be part of the decision-making process. If you do not include yourself in that research portion, you're out.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I alluded to it before. You kind of gave me a tip in more of a little bit of an owner's mastermind meeting that we were talking in. And I've been training people for years, and you were like, no, you're actually doing the person a favor by taking their credit card right then and there.
Yes.
They want to do that. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Very same day did that. And I was like, yeah, next step, which is ideally moving you away from your pain, is for me to just take your credit card and get you going. And they were like, okay, yep. And you talk about like scurrying off and then like making the bid and emailing it over later.
Yeah.
So common in home service businesses. It drives me crazy.
Yes.
But, are you also seeing a faster kind of training and conversion time for like new people to adopt into some of these companies that you're helping, like the cleaning companies, the power washing companies? I mean, you're helping a wide range of businesses, but are you seeing the implementation process just go so much faster because they're not having to go through technical sales training?
Yeah, technical sales training, I feel like when I had my window cleaning company, we called ourselves a customer service company who happens to clean windows. And then we moved into pressure washing and we did some other stuff too. But I've always felt that the more time a salesperson or an office person spends learning about the technical stuff, it's wasted on their job. Like there's got to be a way to move that to the back of the line, because at the end of the day, knowing how to deal with people and having the conversation centric to meeting that person where they're at. If you walked into the emergency room and you said, man, I got this knife that's stuck in my arm, and they're like, well, there are so many steps we could take to get that out, right? And then they start using all the Latin words, and they start like, we could get a cytoplasm tourniquet dissolver, evolve mister, and they just start saying, you know how it is when you're sitting there, you're like, look, I don't know if you've ever had a knife in your arm, but like I would love to have it out immediately and not talk as much as you're talking. And I feel like as extreme as an example that I use that example because I remember being in the high school parking lot after a football game and throwing a dude in the back of my truck who ran up with a knife in his arm. And I remember being like, I don't know who you are, and you're probably in some sort of gang fight. Just get in the bed of my truck. I'm going to drive you to the hospital. And I just pushed him out of the emergency room and throw up. Anyway, tangent. Fact is that we go up and people are like, hey, I'd like to get this service done. And we're like, cool, what about this service are you most excited for? You know, blah, blah, blah. And they say, well, I'm excited to get it done before my family gets into town. And you're like, okay, cool. Anything you're super passionate about? I'm like, well, I saw my neighbors have this particular thing. Maybe it's a pool deck cleaning or something. I noticed that you were over there and you got it looking really nice. Well, that's cool. We use sodium chlorate and we use hog's hair brushes to brush the exterior walls. And we actually have this process that we follow where, you know, a lot of people don't know about this, but we can use enzymes to eat the, it's like, shut the heck up. You're making this more painful than you need to make it. And if you get real techie, you're handing bowling balls to your customer. With every word you say, they can hold 2, 3, maybe even 4 bowling balls. But when they have 5, they have none. And this is what we do to ourselves all the time. You need to be able to get in there and say, as a salesperson, I have this form of stuff I'm going to be filling out so I don't miss anything. But I'm going to spend the lion's share of time working with you and understanding where you're at. And then I'm going to have enough social and emotional intelligence to realize that the things I say to make myself sound smart or to get really techie with you as a person who may not care about techie. I mean, there are people who care about tech for sure, but not as many as you might think. The fact is that I can meet you at the level that you need me to meet you at and get you a price, because like the whole thing with not asking for the credit card at the end is that we worked up to something, and then it's like getting to the end of the movie, and right as they're about to have resolution, you're like, hey, let's stop right now and go take a break. Like the person was like all amped up, ready to go. And it crescendoed. And the music, the orchestra's going. It's going to be a good ending. All of a sudden, it's going to happen. And then we go, cool, let me go back for an undetermined amount of time. I will send you an email with an undetermined amount of money estimate in it. And you will make that final decision all by yourself without me being here with you right now. And it will be this weird, convoluted thing. And it's like, dude, you had the ending. The orchestra playing. Let's go.
And just we'll call that the Netflix close. We're going to get halfway through, get really pumped up, and then we're going to be like, all right, we're going to be back in 4 weeks for the second volume of this awesome series that you're sucked into. I know a lot of us in contractors, we're super good at simplifying things. I'm shaking my head because even I'm overcomplicating. Like, so this cool concept that you guys kind of out of the box give to contractors of this option-based selling, and it's faster and more autonomous. How are you taking contractors that may overcomplicate, well, what's going to be on option A, B, and C, and how do we do that? Like, you guys have kind of mastered this process through your onboarding. So for our 6 listeners out there, you know, take us through that process and why it's become so streamlined over the last several years.
Yeah, the process is very simple. The fact is you start out by understanding that the person asking for the quote only has a pain, and they are asking for the solution that they think is best. If you go with that as your first premise, then the second premise right behind it is that I've done a lot more of this than they ever can even imagine, and I know better for them than they do. If you put those two things together, you're basically there. You don't have much further to go. Now you just have to have a little bit of courage. And if you use automation, it doesn't require courage. But what you do is you help them envision their life several different ways. You do not talk about price first. The first thing you do is you help them envision what their life could be like. So I know that, for example, we have a friend that Aaron we talked to who does concrete, right? So let's just use a concrete example. Someone calls you up and they say, I want a walkway to be put into my backyard. I'm tired of dragging my garbage can through the mud, and I need a 6-foot walkway. So if Aaron came in there and said, I'm going to give you a quote for 6 feet of 3-foot wide walkway, then they would be meeting the need of the customer, what they're asking, and they're going to do exactly what everybody else did. But he's not just that. He knows that that's their immediate pain and that he knows way better than them what they actually want and need. So when Aaron shows up, he's fully prepared and measuring for the solution that they have. And they'll be able to now visualize themselves like, look, when you take your garbage can out and around to the street, you won't have to walk through mud on muddy days. Mm-hmm. But if I could, we're already going to have a cement truck here, and we're already going to have a very well-trained crew of people here. And it's not often that you get a chance to work with a company as competent as ours. So I thought you might be interested in knowing, I noticed in your backyard, you have this really cool entertaining area. Wouldn't it be nice if your guests could come any day of the week, muddy or not, and they could walk on this really cool stamped and dyed concrete that looks like a wood, like hardwood floor that goes back there, and you'll have it forever. Like, that's the cool thing about concrete, right? Is that when I do this, it's going to be so good, it'll last forever. Now, if you can imagine that your guests are able to walk back here, they can go through this gate, this whole gate area, this now becomes living space, basically. Instead of people having to go through your house, you can now have people cycle through. So now you can have maybe weddings here or something like that. And, I'll just bring up one other thing is that if you imagine that we also took our concrete, not just for the build this gorgeous walkway out in your backyard, but what if we built this planter on the side right here, and you can just imagine like all the vines draping down and the plants growing in it. You can see how inviting it would be. And now you've taken all this square footage that's outside of your house, and you've made it feel like this blurry line between indoor living space and just living space in general. And so when people say, how many square feet is your house? Sure, you'll know what the living square footage of your house is. But if they come and see your house, they'll see that there's so much more square footage to the actual place where people will live. And so people often get that wrong about concrete, is that they think that, I'm going to put some gray concrete in here and I'm going to have a hard surface to walk on. What they miss is that we can actually transform something to feel much different. Let me just show you a sample real quick of this other stuff. I know it's not what you asked for and there's no obligation. I figured while I'm here, I'm just going to measure it. So this person in their mind, they've now got what I asked for, which is way less superior to what, joining my front and backyard could be like. And then thirdly, now you've got me envisioning what it would look like to actually make it all just totally warm and inviting and actually make it feel like indoor living space. Now that they've envisioned that, now we can attach something to it, like price, right? So we can say, okay, now that you understand what the cashmere version of this looks like, a lot of people think it's way outside of reach. They don't think that they could ever afford something like that. That's only something rich people can afford. The cool thing about our company is that for $50,000, we can add $100,000 worth of living space to your house just by doing something like this. You'll need some seeds and topsoil when we're done, but like that's it, right? So for $50,000, we could do that. For $35,000, I can give you that really cool walkway. And then, we can do that $2,000 job.
What do you say to customers that don't want to use software? What do you say to owners that say, my customers don't want to use software? They want me on the phone giving or face-to-face, all that, but you're automating that.
So on the final option, we can give them what they asked for sure. There's nothing holding us back from that. And there's nothing holding the customer back from choosing it. The problem is that if you don't give them all the context they need to make the right decision, they're not being cared for. And I think that's what people get wrong about the sales process in general, is that if you have a negative view of salespeople, you might feel like upselling is a disservice or some sort of manipulation tactic or something like that. And the fact is that if you can give someone $100,000 of living space for $50,000, that's your moral obligation to tell them about that before you leave. That'd be crazy not to. So your question originally was like, what do people, this package selling and this option selling, how does it work? Well, it works by helping them visualize what their life could be like and allowing them to check their bank account to see.
Yeah.
Because you know what? People buy a lot more than you think that they can or will. And most of that is driven by that emotional connection to what they want their life to be like.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned that in the beginning, like you were like, man, I would have discounted that job. We do that as owners, especially in our younger days, but then also when you create a sales division or a team, then they do the same thing. They're selling with their own wallet, not the customer's wallet, but along with not just ResponsiBid, but you've built some assessment tools too for companies that you serve. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's so simple. We can add a link to it here. It's called a sales audit quiz. Basically, what it is it's someone who has a business can go through and sort of throw their process in. It's a 10-question quiz that basically helps you to identify where you're at in your sales process and your customer journey, how intentional it is versus, because everyone's got a sales process. Whether you've been intentional about it or not, you have it. Like that's how you're doing it. But the question is like, does it really intentionally meet the needs of your customer? And what if you just took one area of your sales process and made it 10% better? Because the fact is that there's sales processes that are very interesting. If your sales process is 30% good, it doesn't quite make it to the fulcrum, you'll hardly close any sales at all. When your sales process becomes like 51% good, the teeter-totter starts to like slope in the right direction for you and you start crushing it. But like most people don't realize if your sales process is like 60% good, like you are crushing it because it's compelling to lots of people. And it could be just a tiny little thing that makes it that much better. And it breaks through that sort of like, it's not that compelling, but some people might take it, some people might not. Compelling works differently. Like something that's compelling to 50 people is probably compelling to 500,000 people, right? You just have to get, to get to that point.
Well, that's interesting because in my industry, there's tons of people specific to foundation repair, concrete contractors, that they're constantly like, well, I just need more leads. I just need more leads. And are you starting to see that mind shift change after launching ResponsiBid, where it's like, wait a minute, no, I just need to squeeze more out of the opportunities I have rather than just giving Google all my money? I mean, are you starting to see that in a shift with your customers? And if so, is it the first 30 days, 90 days, 100 days? What is it?
Yeah, I think we have some room to grow there for sure. And hopefully all of us can find the room to grow in it too. But I find that typically a customer who is coming and learning about your product, it's really easy to overwhelm them, especially a product as robust as ours is. I can tell you about every single feature and just, like I said, just keep handing you bowling balls all day long, and then you're holding none. So it doesn't matter, especially if I wrap it in technical jargon. So I'm basically covering every bowling ball in Vaseline. Like people can't hang on to what you're doing or saying. The nice thing about onboarding, and that's with software, but like in your case, selling concrete, is let's first make sure that you fully understand what it is that you were prepared to understand. And then let me give you enough additional information so that I can expand your horizons. It's called expansion revenue. Expand your horizons so that I can show you where I can add additional value. But the whole problem is if you called me for that concrete to pull a trash can out to the front of the house, and I start by talking about planters, get out of here, dude.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is funny because we're two 30-year-old men talking about this, right, Kurt? Kurt, I've never asked you this, but I think we're pretty close. How old are you, Kurt?
I just turned 46.
Oh, okay. That's not terrible. I thought you were 41. So, and I just say that because I'm 41. And I'm sure for people watching on YouTube, they're looking at it like, Jesus Christ, well, you're 41. You look like you're 51. Anyway, I've got a lot less gray hair now than I did in my younger days. But, talking about that, like, get out of here motive, like, we're seeing this now second generation of business owners and contractors coming in, even with some franchise models embracing this. And they're embracing this automation aspect and technology aspect of their bids. Do you think that generational mindset or the industry itself just needs to evolve in a deeper level? Or are you kind of seeing that moving that way already?
Oh, dude, like, oh my gosh, like, where do we even start? Like, it started with the idea that you could go to a self-checkout lane at the grocery store.
I know. Remember when people were like, this is crazy. I'm going to send Walmart a $10.99.
Yeah. And now fast food's not fast enough unless you are checking out at a kiosk right in front of people who have a register. Amazon, I could go down to the store and buy, but can't be troubled. I'll just get out my phone and get it. Dude, Waymo, I've got cars driving down the road with no drivers in the driver's seat now.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you're in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
What part? Are you in Phoenix? You in like
Phoenix.
Scottsdale? Okay, so I was in Scottsdale over Thanksgiving, and I'm looking at these things like flying saucers go around, and I'm like, what are these?
Bro.
And so because it's crazy. Yeah, sorry. This is about contractors, and we got off on Waymo.
Yeah, well, when
Yeah.
people tell me like I got to do it all on paper, I got to do it all by hand. Look, the efficiencies that are coming and have come, like even if you're doing it by hand, the person you're talking to and you yourself, you even lie to me, have a spaceship capable device in your pocket, talking to outer space with GPS and satellites and like, come on. Like, here's the thing. If you want to be as inefficient as you can with your paper and your handshakes, I think that there's still enough people alive to keep you working, but you pay such a high price for that. And not only do you pay a high price for that financially in terms of all the gas you're going to spend, but you're paying a huge price just in terms of opportunity cost. There's people who would love to do business with you if you would just get off your high horse, have such a big old fat ego, and realize you got to serve people the way they want to be served. Now, does that mean that every bit of what you do has to be through technology? No. But if you have to go through a Rolodex and try to read Joe Schmo's handwriting to get a phone number, and you don't have it in a CRM that's digitized where you can access it on your phone and at a computer all over the world, like when you go on a vacation, like, I'm not saying you should work through your whole vacation. I'm saying that there's a peace of mind that comes with people being able to work remote. You being able to like check something real quick without having to drive all the way into the office. Like, and I don't think I have to explain this to you. Like, the fact is that if you aren't using technology or you're averse to it, look, I'm afraid of AI. I'm afraid of what AI is going to do in the future. I don't know. But
Well, we
can't
are
be
the
so
Skynet
naive.
generation, Kurt. So we
Well,
we
yeah.
watch the Terminator movies, all that. These
Skynet's on his
youngins
way.
today. Yeah. So sorry, I
But
interrupted. Go ahead.
no, but all I'm saying is we can't let ourselves say that because I personally am not sure that I want to be served that way. It doesn't mean that our services should be held back from people who might want to do business with someone who is dealing with them quickly or effectively or following up with them. Like, if you aren't following with all the customers that you do and asking them for a review, you're keeping other people who are searching for you online from finding out that you're that great if they're not reading reviews about you. If you aren't following up with someone 2 weeks after every job to find out if it was a good job and it's still good, then you're giving your customers no reason to believe that you back up your work. And if you do send out a message every 2 weeks manually, well, you're leaving yourself open to forgetting one. And so I say that just to be a little bit aggressive because I feel like people who are this far into life and are resisting this hard, you probably need someone to like grab you by the shoulders and shake you. And maybe it has to be a tech guy, and maybe you're just gonna let life do it itself. But you have a moral obligation as an entrepreneur to perform for your customer, and you got to do it in the year in which they live.
It's funny because you bring that to the table, Kurt, and not only just from our interactions before today's episode, because we met tons of times, other podcasts, some of the articles you've written, I think like there's this culture in construction and home services where it's like grind, hustle, push, and you've always and consistently taken this approach of like, no, I don't need to work 80 hours. I don't need to wear this badge of honor to be a successful business owner. What drives that? I know you said you had, your first child, but I had that too, and it forced me in the opposite direction. Where I had my first child and I was like, I'm going to work 100 hours a week. But you consistently, kept this model of character that I think is a good message to home service companies out there across the country. And they need to hear that. So what drives that behavior and what's kept you so consistent and rooted?
I read a book very early on in my entrepreneur days, right after I graduated from college. And it's called Rework. And it's by the guys that started 37 Signals. They make Basecamp, and that's the most popular software. One of the chapters in the book, well, the whole book basically deconstructs this whole like hustle and grind mentality, sort of breaks it down to what it really is. And it's a hero syndrome. It's this idea that like No one can do it like me. I can work harder than everybody else. I can work circles around everybody. And it doesn't really lead you anywhere good. But one of the things it said is that if you're working more than 40 hours a week, stop wearing that as a badge of honor and wear it for what it really is, a badge of defeat. You're not effective or as efficient as you think you are. You suck. And I really took that
Talking about some
seriously.
reverse psychology.
Yeah.
If I, that challenger mindset, and then somebody tells me that, I'm like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to work 40 hours this week.
Yeah. I took that so seriously. And I think that, part of it's rooted in the fact that my original message is that I've got kids and I need to be there for them as they're growing up. Like, my wife deserves that from me. My kids deserve it from me. And I grew up with a dad who, he did work really hard. He had to commute to and from work. So, but we worked a lot together on the weekends in the garage. And, my dad was around. And so I kind of had that model that I really wanted to follow. I wonder if I could even improve upon it. And that book sort of sealed that deal for me. And so from that point forward, I've really looked at it like, whatever you need to get done, you need to figure out a way to get it done within a 40-hour work week. Or better, if you can,
Yeah. Well, and you've done it. And sorry, I got to give you some character praise there, Curt, because you have been one of the most consistent people I've met in the last year. And I'm like, yeah, one day I'll be more like Curt.
Wow.
But nevertheless, now, one thing I wanted to ask you, because you help a lot of companies, not just from speaking and things like that, but also with, obviously, ResponsiBid. What's the biggest difference you see with companies that can't seem to break over that $1 million mark and then the multi-million dollar companies? I mean, what are you seeing and what's your opinion there?
Well, the main thing I'm seeing in those companies is that typically the company that you have to get to become to be $1 million, that same model and those same leadership principles won't work beyond $1 million. And honestly, I've actually heard from other people that a $10 million company is, absolutely 100% not the kind of company you need for a $100 million company, which it's interesting because you would think like growth is linear, like just keep doing more of the same things, just keep doing it and it grows. But the way that organizations work is that you need certain types of leadership for certain phases of the business. And then you need to scale things in a way that allows you to not get bottlenecked. Like we have these natural bottlenecks that will arrive. For example, you keep hiring a bunch of salespeople, but if you don't hire a sales manager, you'll devolve really quick. So for you, having as many sales guys as you have working, I don't know how many people they report directly to, but a sales manager is going to be able to make sure that they're fully trained and optimized and they're getting the opportunities that they need and they're working those opportunities the way that you can systematically make sure is happening. And the problem that most people run into is that I have a sales guy and he can fill my funnel, so I'm just going to hire another sales guy and hope that second sales guy is just as good as the first sales guy. And if I'm wrong, then I'll just fire him and keep hiring new guys until I get one that's the right way. But then there's this natural divergence because there isn't that sort of management layer over your sales. And same happens operationally. In a business like yours, also, well, really every contractor where there starts to become equipment materials, now we got to have people start managing the equipment and materials at a bigger scale, the trucks and equipment. And what people do is they keep trying to run a business that had 2 trucks. But at some point, you got to hire like a mechanic that works full time for your business to keep all your trucks running. And you have to hire someone who's managing the materials to make sure that you aren't running out of the materials that you need. So where it used to be something that scaled fine, that $1 million mark, things start to tip. And when they do, there's these new layers of systems and people to manage those systems in place that people maybe didn't even imagine had to be happening because, I was able to just throw that in. I could go out and work all day and then order materials at night. Well, yeah, but no one else does.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Talk back to your consistency, Curt, because I think even ResponsiBid is set up that way for how you pay, you bill for services. I mean, you have your free, like, hey, you're just starting out, but then you get into scaling and then you get into pro and things like that, which is kind of funny. Well, not funny. I mean, obviously it's intentional, right? And you're a good steward of intentionality. Now, where do you see, because we talked about this, like I know your heart is really, you help a lot of concrete, you help a lot of power washing, window cleaning companies, things like that. Like you champion that market. That market is expanding
Yeah.
insanely fast. Like,
Yeah.
why are so many people going to that market now in 2025 and 2026 and beyond? What's becoming so lucrative about it for business owners and franchises?
Oh, that's such a good question. I I have some hypotheses, but I'm not exactly sure that I'm
Mhm.
the most authoritative person. I can tell you that the people I talk to who are new startups, and I'm thinking about COVID right now. During COVID, people like
Oh,
basically
mhm,
lost their jobs. The barrier
mhm,
to entry, you can buy a really nice pressure washing rig for like 30 grand. Like if you had 30 grand, you could be like looking like a really top-notch company. But you could also go to Home Depot for a grand and have a pressure
mhm.
washer or all the
Yeah.
window cleaning equipment that they have on the whole window cleaning aisle, and you could be doing that. So barrier to entry is very low. Same reason the college student who was going to be a professional mountain biker got into the industry is because,
Mhm.
you know, hey, here's something that the barrier to entry is really low.
Yeah.
So that's one reason. But I think the other reason is that housing and real estate has gotten so expensive that like proportional to your wealth. I mean, my daughter's getting married and she went to go buy a house. And I
Mhm.
do not envy someone starting their life in 2025 because when I bought a
Mhm.
house, I thought $100,000 was a lot of money for a house.
That gets you a really good camper nowadays,
Yes,
right?
well, a decent like a camper
Yeah.
that's nicely used, gently used, you know.
Yeah. Slightly depreciated.
But I mean now, like if you want a starter home and you can find something way off the beaten path for $350,000, you know, or if you're willing to live in a neighborhood where your life might be in jeopardy for $250,000. I mean, if you want to buy a house, like the average price now is like 500,000. It is it is difficult to buy something that expensive and not care for it. I think it's become a lot more difficult for people to watch their biggest asset start to degrade before their eyes. And that makes the market for home improvement, home care just so attractive right now.
Well, Kurt, more on a personal question. And this is because, my son and wife have gone crazy with this. Have you, answer honestly, there's a game out there called Power Washing Simulator on Xbox and PlayStation. Have you played this game? It seems like it's right up your alley. Like you
Well,
may want to maybe ResponsiBid. I know Madison that does your marketing. You guys may
yeah.
create a sponsorship product or something like that. But it is so funny to watch like my 13-year-old playing this game. But now, like, even he is like talking about, hey, man, I'm thinking about like, I don't know if I want to go to school. Super smart kid, by the way. And he's like, yeah, I could probably just start up a business. And my oldest son did that. He did an in-ground trampoline company when he was 18. I mean, just cool stuff. So,
That's so smart. So
yeah,
smart.
but yeah, so obviously ResponsiBid, you guys have been in business a long time. It's not just something that you dreamed up and
Yeah.
you found some people on Fiverr to do it. You got an established team. I've met some of your team. They're awesome.
Yeah.
How do people get a hold of you when if they want to learn more about it? Obviously, they can type in the logo in the title in your background, ResponsiBid, but you've also got stuff out there like your home service workshops and stuff that brings people together. I mean, you're in a lot of different areas. So what's the
Yeah.
best place for people to track you down?
Probably the best place is, I mean, you can email me, although my email's hard to spell. It's Curt, C-U-R-T, not no K,
Mhm.
C, and then at Simphasize.com, which is the company that makes ResponsiBid that I made. So Simphasize is, we'll have to spell it out and put it in the show notes. Or just go to responsibid.com. We have a chat feature on there, and you can reach out through there. We're happy to talk to you about that. I would recommend that sales audit quiz, though, and here's why. If you go to the sales audit quiz and you take the 10 questions, it'll take you probably about 2 minutes to fill it out, 3 minutes max. And when you're done with that, not only will you have like some emails that will go out and send you sort of the stuff about how you're measuring up and maybe finding out areas where you want to improve, but you can actually have something to talk about that maybe like is brought to your attention. Usually I'll say people, when they take the sales audit quiz, they maybe already had suspicions of where their maybe weaker points are, or areas where they'd almost powered all the way up, but they knew they just weren't quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also like the surprises in there, and those are really fun to talk to people about. Like, I had never considered that my customer journey should take X into account or Y. And the fact is that if you know what it is you're going after, it's really nice to have some sort of guidance as you go after that particular thing. Where I think a lot of times we, as entrepreneurs, there's a billion things you could do. And so we walk off in this general direction knowing, I know this is a positive direction. I wonder what I'm going to end up, actually putting my energy into. So I would say that maybe try following that link. And then if for whatever reason you want to connect with me directly, just reply to that link and say, I'm looking for Curt to talk about X or Y. And we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cool to hear, because with y'all's product that you got, I think it's an awesome product, because I just did a workshop with some production managers showing the correlation between average dollar per sale versus gross profit margin. Obviously, there's going to be things in there, but the fact is you're increasing average dollar per sales for a lot of people out there in the world too, which is correlating to getting to break even faster gross profit margin, or larger gross profit margin, which is ultimately adding wealth to the world.
Yeah.
So I think you got a cool product. I think you're a good human being, Curt, too. And you got a good team too. That's what I appreciate. And next time we'll have Madison on just to talk about marketing, because she's a bubbly personality. But
Yes.
But Curt, thank you so much to you tradies out there. Thanks for hanging out with us for another episode of Beers with Contractors, and Terry's absence today because he had to work today. As I roll my eyes. If you're on Spotify or Apple, you didn't hear me roll my eyes. But nevertheless, Curt, appreciate you. Thank you guys out there, and we'll see you next week on Beers with Contractors. Appreciate you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.